Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's Small Business Essentials webinar. Today's topic, retention and talent acquisition for 2022, what you need to know in the new normal. And of course, that's one of the most important topics I think all small businesses have been talking about recently. So I'm really excited to hear more about what Ronee has to say. My name is TJ Daniels, and I'm the director for the Iowa Center's Women's Business Center. The Iowa Center's Women's Business Center is funded in part through a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Small Business Administration. You will all receive an email after this event from my colleague, Katie Hinches, thanking you for attending today's session, information on how to connect to our speaker, as well as a form to complete. Please do us a big favor and take some time to fill this form out. This information allows us to continue providing free educational programming for small business owners in Iowa. Now go ahead and take some time to locate the chat function on your Zoom screens so you can join the conversation by asking questions or adding comments. Also, feel free to introduce yourself and your business in the chat and include your website or social media page so we could visit and learn more about your business and network. Now, a little information about today's speaker. Ronee Andersen, owner, leadership coach, and business consultant. Ronee Andersen is an experienced human resource professional with 20 years of progressive experience in companies from 50 to 6,000 employees. She has experience working in family-owned businesses, private sector, and publicly traded companies, as well as experience in the public sector in city and county government. She has held positions as HR officer, HR director, and senior HR director. She has been a member of leadership and executive teams. With her HR background, she understands the needs of the company, management, and the employees. Ronee has held her senior professional in human resources certificate since 2003. She has an MBA with an emphasis in human resources and an advanced certificate in strategic human resources from Cornell University. She is a certified coach through the Coach Training Alliance. She is a member of the Iowa chapter of the International Coaching Federation. Ronee is passionate about leadership and team development, culture creation, and helping individuals and organizations meet their full potential. Ronee, thank you so much for spending your time with us today. And now the screen is yours.
All right, thank you so much. I need to shorten that. That was a long introduction when you hear somebody else read it.
Well, it's important so we know that we're listening to somebody who really knows what they're talking about. I mean, come on.
Yes. Well, thank you very much to TJ and the Iowa Center for Economic Success for giving me the opportunity to visit with you here today. I hope to help you with your retention issues and talent acquisition. I hope that you'll ask questions in the chat so that I can individually address those, because I need to look at this from a broad perspective, and sometimes some of the things that I'm going to share is not going to particularly pertain to you. So please be interactive. It makes it much more interesting and fun than just listening to me talk. The other thing, as TJ said, I have 20 years of HR experience, and I'm going to be drawing on that experience today as I visit with you. I've had the unique opportunity to sit in on hundreds of exit interviews and understand what employees are challenged with or why they're wanting to leave the organization and that sort of thing. Also, people coming to me with concerns with management and other things like that. The one thing I would share with you, some of you like TJ are probably too young to remember this book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. It was published in 1992. It was a big hit. It was huge at the time that it came out. But I would like to rewrite this and say that managers are from Mars and employees are from Venus. And the reason that I say that is, having talked many times to the manager and then turning around and talking to the employees, sometimes I don't think they are in the same room with what happened or work for the same company, and they're just totally on different pages. So as we go throughout our next hour, I will be addressing some of those things and sharing some ideas and suggestions with you, but just want to share with you my experience with regards to that. Okay, so our agenda for today, we're going to be talking, first of all, it says what employees want in order to stay. So I want to share with you, what are they looking for, what's important to them, and that. Then I also want to touch on what you need as a manager or leader for them to stay with the organization, how to attract top talent, and then how to retain your high performers, because sometimes they feel like they're being ignored and they leave, and I'll address that here today. So I want to just share with you some statistics. I'm sure you've heard of the Great Resignation that's happening, but I want to share some statistics with you. And as I share these with you, what I want you to do is think about your employees. And do you have anybody that falls into this category, and what percentage of your workforce falls into this category? Because that's going to make a difference from you and maybe the challenges that you're experiencing at this point. So first bullet, at least 1 in 4 employees quit their job this year. I'd be really curious to find out, maybe we'll get a chance here later, if you've had 1/4 of your workforce leave in the last year, where you're at and what the percentage of turnover. Has your turnover increased since the pandemic, or is it pretty much the same? 65% of people are looking for a new job. That's high. And again, that's why we want to make sure that we're meeting those employees' needs and what they're looking for, so they don't leave your organization. The third bullet, some workers are more likely to quit voluntarily than others, including those with 5 to 15 years of tenure and workers with 40 to 45 and women. So again, think about your employees and who you have. Are they women? Are they in that age group? Have they had that tenure? Because now you know that they're more likely to be looking at other opportunities in that. Roughly 2/3 of the people who have left the labor force are over 55, and they are unlikely to return. Now, I want to speak a little bit to that because I fall into that category. I am over 55. And what I would say to you is, I think this is an opportunity for you to be creative with maybe bringing some of those people back. Like, for example, maybe if you were doing taxes, you only need them for 20 hours a week during the tax season, or you only need them 10 hours a week, and you're willing to be flexible with them, and that sort of thing. It gives a little extra cash in their hands, but then there's that flexibility there. So I think there's the opportunity, in my opinion, to pull some of those people back into the workforce if we're creative and can help them meet their needs as well. And then the last bullet, almost 60% are rethinking their career. Working women, because considering a job change, are more likely than men to cite burnout, with 42% of women contemplating quitting because of burnout, with men being 27%. Again, look at your employees. What do you have? Do you have a 50-50 mix? Do you have 75% of your employees are women and 25 men, or vice versa? That's going to make a difference on maybe the potential challenges that you're going to have in the year to come with your employees potentially leaving. I see we have one thing in the chat. Can I see that? Oh, I see. Just thanking everyone for joining. Okay, moving on. And that's the slide I will read the most for the rest of the time. I just wanted to touch on those statistics and kind of let you know, drill down, what does that Great Resignation look like when you get down to the nitty-gritty of it? Who's it really affecting? So as we talked about our what we're going to cover today, the number one thing, or not the number one, the first thing that we're going to cover is what employees want from you to stay. So first of all I have there is they want a strong vision. They want a purpose. They want a reason. They want to be excited to come to work. And you need to think about what's your mission, what's your vision, that sort of thing for your business. And has it changed because of COVID? I'm going to use the example. Let's say, for example, that you own a restaurant, and prior to the pandemic, you had a dine-in only restaurant. And now you have a combination of dine-in and carry-out, and you've decided that your business model now is going to continue, and you're going to have dine-in and carry-out. You found out that carry-out can be very, profitable for your organization. So again, your mission's changed. Now, let's say, for example, you have your staff. Your wait staff is helping you with those carryouts. So maybe they're not making as much money because they're not waiting on people. You need to look at what you're doing and the mission, has it changed? And do you need to maybe you need to pay that wait staff a little bit more because they're not getting the type of tips that they need. So again, you need to look at that. You need to redesign it, and then you need to share it and sell it to your employees. So why this is best for maybe the organization or for them, and for them to feel proud about where they work, and for them to maybe stand up a little higher and be excited when they share with, who they work for or what they do. They want to be inspired. I mean, we're all familiar with, I have a dream speech, how inspiring it is. And so leaders need to do that. They need to inspire their employees and get them excited about, what they're doing for the organization and the company. No, they want to know, the employees want to know that their opinion matters. So when somebody makes a suggestion, I took a course on positive intelligence, and the person that was leading it was from Stanford University. And his thought was that when somebody makes a suggestion, 10% of it, maybe it's just a sliver, there probably is a little bit of truth in there to what they're saying. And can you build upon that? And I want to share a story with you with regards to that. So many years ago, out on the East Coast, there was an organization, utility organization, that was having problems with the linemen because they were very frustrated because when there was ice on the utility lines, they had to go out into the woods, climb up the poles, and shake the ice off of the lines, which they hated. It was dangerous. It was cold. It was in bear country. One of the persons had been chased by a bear. And so they, again, were trying to brainstorm and figure out how can we handle this problem or take care of getting the ice off of the utility lines in a better way. Well, they were in this brainstorming section, and somebody said, well, what if we put honey pots on top of the utility poles so that the bears could climb up the utility poles, and maybe by their weight, they would shake the ice off of the lines. And somebody said, well, how are we going to train the bears that only climb the poles when the weather is bad and not eat the honey when it's good? And how are we going to, then it was like, how are we going to get the honey into the honey pots? And they kept going through this. Well, then somebody said, well, why don't we've got helicopters in that. Why don't we fly the helicopters over to, and then put in the honey when the weather is bad, and then they'll climb up during that time. And then somebody that hadn't said anything during the whole brainstorming session, it was a administrative assistant, she spoke up and she said, I was a nurse. This is an older story. She was a nurse during Vietnam. And she said, the downwash from the helicopter blades, that actually might knock the ice off of those utility lines, which is my understanding what they started doing. My reason for sharing that story to you is twofold. Number one, if somebody had cut off the honey pot idea, they never would have gotten to the helicopter. The other thing is that environment had to be such that that administrative assistant felt like she could speak up, that there was psychological safety there, and she wouldn't be laughed at, or that her idea would be taken seriously. So I'll be talking about that again, or mentioning again psychological safety, but that's really important for employees to feel like they can share, maybe issues, concerns, problems, ideas, suggestions, and that sort of thing. You obviously, third bullet there, excuse my voice here. Third bullet there is you want to make sure that you have a culture where people feel like they're cared for. So you don't want a non-toxic culture. If we were in a room, or I've been in rooms before and I have people raise their hand, have you ever worked in a toxic work environment? I get a lot of people that raise their hands. I don't want that to be your company. I don't want them to be raising their hands because of your business. So you need to create a culture where employees feel like they care. And actually, culture is a Latin word, and the Latin word is cultus. I'm pretty sure that's it, which means care. So does your culture feel like people are cared for? As it kind of going back to the vision and the mission and that of the business or their job, they want to make sure that they feel like they're contributing to a higher purpose. And you may be saying, I'm a restaurant business, it's not a higher business. I at one point in my career, I worked for a company that was doing cancer research. And you may think, well, it's got to be jobs like that. That's kind of like a higher purpose. And I would somewhat disagree with you. As you can see here, I've rewritten a sentence with regards to making car parts. So somebody could just say, yeah, I make car parts. But if you reframe it and change it for them to view things differently, we can say, as it says here, we make high quality car parts so people can safely travel to see their loved ones. So again, if you've got that person that's making car parts, then instead of them thinking this isn't really important, I don't have a higher purpose, that sort of thing, now they do. They know that they need to make a high quality, they're going to be more committed, they're going to be more engaged. And so I would encourage you to think about maybe reframing some things and then communicating that with the employees. They also want a sense of belonging. It's human nature. We all want to feel like we belong. So what steps are you taking to make them feel like they belong? Especially, it's extremely important when somebody is just starting, that when that onboarding and that first couple of weeks, first month, that you make them feel like they're included and they're part of the organization and the business, and they're being welcomed and information is being shared with them freely, things like that. And then this, again, the slide's entitled What Employees Want from You to Stay. Ask them. So conduct an employee survey. Remember earlier when I was talking about men are from Mars, women are from Venus, or managers are from Mars and employees are from Venus? You aren't probably going to know what they're really thinking unless you do an employee survey. Now, I realize that's hard if you have 3 employees. But if you can't do it and it's hard and you only have a few employees, then, just ask them, sit down with them and talk to them. But again, you've got to make sure that you've built trust with them and they feel like they can be open and honest with you if you do sit down with them. And then as you can see, I have this is called this picture here is the iceberg of ignorance. This came out in 1989, where somebody had done a study and said that executives only see 4% of the problems, or I would even argue of knowing what's going on and other issues and concerns and that sort of thing. And so even if that's half true, I don't want you to be in that position where you think everything's great and wonderful and you're only seeing 4% of the problems. I want you to be able to be aware of what those other 96% are so that you can address them and make it a better place for you, the employees, and hopefully your bottom line. Okay. Do we have any? Oh, hello, Mark. I'm just reading the comment there. Good for you. Congratulations on getting your master's. All right, moving on here. So we've talked about what employees are looking for, okay? But what do you need as a manager, again, to keep those people engaged and motivated and not wanting to leave your organization? So one of the top things is they want to be listened to. They want to know that they are valued, that they make a difference and that sort of thing. Now, if you're a visual person, the best example I can give you of what good listening looks like is for you to watch Tom Bilyeu in Impact Theory on YouTube. And so who's Tom Bilyeu? I'm guessing a lot of you don't know who he is. He and 2 other people started Quest bars. If you've ever seen those nutritional Quest bars in the store, he started it. He has since sold it. Between 2010 and 2013, they grew the company by 57,000%. And now he worked hard. And my understanding is he wrote 1,000 handwritten letters to different influencers in the nutritious bar industry. But I think he has a lot to say. Anyway, Tom's been very successful. And because of that, he interviews the top notch of people on this impact theory. So it's a couple of reasons to look at it. Watch how Tom listens to his guests that he's interviewing. You can tell he is 100% focused on what they're saying. So again, if you're visual, go out there and check it out. In addition, there's a lot of good information out there from a lot of influencers, and maybe an opportunity to learn something there from him. Show appreciation to your employees. Sometimes it's just the small things. I want to share with you this tiny little card. You can see it's about the size of my hand. And it says up here in the corner, you may not be able to see it. It has my son's name. I stole this from him. I took this from him. It says Brandel. That's my son's name. And it says, hey there. And then there's 4 little boxes. And it's been checked. You're the best, and I'm proud of you. My son was an RA at the University of Iowa, and this was one of his managers gave him this card here. Again, very small, very tiny. She's handwritten in here, Brandel, your flexibility and willingness to help out others on staff last night during duty scheduling was so awesome. You are a rock star. Can't wait to see what you do this year, Alyssa. It's specific. It's small, it's easily written, and I would recommend doing this. I'm sure this made his day when he got this. And these are the kind of the small things that really can make a difference to your employees. Think about them going back to their desk and getting this on the desk, and how that's going to make them their day when you thank them for something that they have done. Let me see here. So yeah, just show them appreciation. And make sure that you're sharing with them that you do appreciate them. And I would say do it often, because that's, again, the perception from the manager and the employees. You say, well, yeah, I showed my appreciation, and they're going, yeah, 6 months ago. So make sure that you probably do it more often than what you think you need to do it. I would encourage you as a manager to have a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And this is on the work of Carol Dweck, which is right here. She is from, again, she's also from Stanford University. And she's the one that came up with this theory on having a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And you can see the differences here between them. People with a fixed mindset think that their intelligence is static, that they can't learn, that they need to look smart. And this other side on the growth thinks that they need to learn. So you can see they're on the opposites on everything. They avoid challenges over here where they embrace challenges. And I would say I went from a fixed mindset, and we don't have time today for me to share everything that I went through and how I got from having a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. But I just want you to know it's possible. I never, ever used to do anything unless I was like 90% sure I was going to succeed. Now, especially as an entrepreneur and that, I know I'm going to fail. And I have to look at those as learning opportunities. And so if you see yourself, you need to be honest with yourself. You see yourself identifying with that fixed mindset, then I would encourage you to take steps to develop a growth mindset. You know, and it may be, I saw a counselor at one point in my life, maybe you need to go see a counselor. And I wouldn't be ashamed of that. It takes a stronger person to ask for help than it doesn't. So happy to talk with anybody about that on an individual basis that they would like to. The 4th bullet there talks about emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence, also referred to as EQ, is the way that you handle your emotions and the emotions of others. Harvard Business Review has said that emotional intelligence is twice as important as IQ, which I was super excited to find out. I don't think I am the smartest person in the room, but I was pretty darn sure I could develop my emotional intelligence. So since it was twice as important as IQ, I was excited to hear that. So you need to think about, how do you handle your emotions with your employees? Do you roll your eyes? Do you shrug your shoulders? Do you get angry? Do you holler at them? That sort of thing. I know nobody wants to admit that they're that person, but again, I've been in rooms and said, who's ever had a toxic manager? And almost everyone in the entire room raises their hand. So they're out there. I don't want that to be you. And these are things that, if you, again, identify with that, these are things that you can look into further than after today to develop that in you, and so you can be a stronger manager. And the last bullet there talks about being a strong leader, being a servant leader, giving them the tools and the resources, the tools and the resources that they need to be able to be successful in their position. And I'm sure many of you know there's a lot of material out there on being a servant leader. And then lastly, be vulnerable. And if you haven't seen the TED Talk from Brene Brown on vulnerability, I would encourage you to go watch it. As you know, TED Talks are only about 15, 17 minutes. It won't take long. You can even speed it up if you want to. If you have seen it and it's been a long time since you've seen it, I would encourage you to go back and watch it again. But when you're vulnerable with your employees, it builds that trust, and they see you as more as a human. And it just develops that better relationship. They feel like they belong. It's just kind of a win-win all the way around. And I see here on this emotional intelligence, I didn't mention the providing the psychological safety, but that is the only way you're going to be able to find out about those problems that are going on. Or if you do an employee survey, the only way you're going to get honest responses is if they feel like they can make suggestions in that without there being repercussions to that. All right, let me see what time it is. Give me 1 second. I just need to take a sip of water. Okay. So how do we attract people? We've talked about, what employees want, the ones that you have them, and then what you need as a leader. So how do you attract some people? And whoops, just dropped my mouse. And I want to share some different ideas with you. In today's market, you need to and have to market your business. You don't want to just put a job posting out there listing what the job is. You want to really go into what is unique about your business. What gets them excited about wanting to come work for you? Again, what's your mission and your purpose? Put that in there. Do you have any unique benefits that you could share? Now, I realize, again, not all of these are going to fit for everybody. If you're a retail business, you probably can't be flexible on work hours. But, if there's things that you can do that you can highlight in that, then I would put that in the job postings that you have. Maybe if you do have a 401k, you still want to put it. But, again, if you have a higher than average contribution to the 401k plan, then you're going to want to highlight that. If you get off early on Fridays, or, you can do things that are inexpensive, like maybe popcorn on Friday afternoons, or I worked in the restaurant industry through high school and college, and we got at some of the places we got free food. So if you do something like that, then share it. Is there anything that's unique about your culture that you would want to share? And something else you might want to do is do a referral bonus for your employees. So if they refer someone to your organization and you end up hiring that person, then you would pay your employee a referral bonus. Now, generally that's done after the person that is hired is there like 90 days. You don't want to have somebody be hired, you pay out this referral bonus, and a week later they quit. So as a general practice, you pay those out 90 days after the person started. And then another thing you may want to do is do a sign-on bonus. And again, you don't want to pay those out right away. You want to do it after a certain time, 90 days, sometimes it's 6 months, just depends. I understand that sometimes the philosophy is, why in the world would I pay someone a sign-on bonus when they haven't even done anything? And I understand that argument. And I can even agree with that. And I felt that way at some point. It's different points in my career. On the other side, when you are doing everything you can to hire someone, that may be just another thing, a necessary evil, if you will, to bring people into your organization. So it may be something you just want to entertain. The other thing that you may want to do is consider paying higher than everyone else. So from a compensation standpoint, you can either lag, meet, or lead what others are paying in your industry and in your geographical area. Now, I worked for a company that chose at the time to lead. So they paid their employees more. We got a richer applicant pool. And I want to tell you that the business was dissolved. It was a savings and loan because of the savings and loan crisis in the early 90s. It was dissolved. But up until the pandemic hit, they met and had a picnic for the next 30 years. I think it says something about the quality of people that they got, that they still wanted to work together and not work together, but still see each other every year for the next 30 years after they had left. I think the return on investment can be very good. So just something for you to think about. I know that may not be possible. The other thing that you need to do is maybe market your location. Now, I worked at a company where we were trying to bring people in from all over the United States into Iowa. And so we don't have mountains and we don't have the oceans and that sort of thing. So we had to try to be creative and, what is unique about Iowa? What do we bring that maybe they don't have in Boston or out in San Francisco or places like that? And, we don't have to go through these, but you can see I went in and I found some statistics about, Des Moines and being rated #1. I did not make the first 3. I did not make those up. There were actual quotes that I went out and pasted here that are things that have been found to be true about Des Moines. Or maybe you're just recruiting people around the Des Moines metro area. And so if you have if you're in the East Village or, Valley Junction, or there's something, again, about your location, or you have a new building or, something that you can highlight there, I would do that. Or free parking. I worked downtown Des Moines for many, many years. They had free parking, but it was I had to walk 2 blocks. So I ended up paying for parking. So again, if you have something like that, I also wanted to share with you, and I know you're not going to be able to read this. Yes. Did you have something, TJ?
Yep, we have a question. What's the current thought around referral bonus and DEI strategies?
Oh, we had to do with referral bonuses and the DEI strategies. Well, as you know, anytime you do anything, you want to make sure that there's not a discrimination piece to that you're being fair and equitable to everyone. Obviously, you don't want to, if you're giving a sign-on bonus for you're hiring wait staff, you want to do it for everybody. You obviously would not want to pick and choose who you're giving a referral bonus. I think as long as you're being fair and you're doing it for everybody, that you would be fine. Now, I'm not sure that was what you were getting at with your question, so we may have to clarify a little bit more on that, or I'd be happy to visit with you after this session, or maybe at the end if we have some time, if that was I'm wanting to know if that was your concern with that question is, what about discrimination or things like that? And I don't think that would be issue as long as you're treating everyone the same. All right. Oh, I was starting to say here, and I know you can't read this, but I took this out of I think the business record. It was a whole entire page out of the business record, and it's for F&G unit annuities and life. And they're talking about having a position open, and they're sharing many of the things that they're doing. They're talking about their 401k match has an immediate vesting. So it's a little bit different. Free parking, discount gym memberships, modern workspace and amenities, great view of Des Moines Metro, professional development opportunities. Let me see, voluntary time off and match gift program. I mean, there's other things that they talk about here, but again, they've done a really good job, in my opinion, on really trying to market what's different about them and what they have to offer to their employees. All right, let's move on here. So this wasn't one of the things I added this on later. I just wanted to share a little bit with you, and it looks like I need to speed up here on the selection process. So let's say you've done all these things, you've marketed things really well, you've got a really rich applicant pool to choose from. How do you go through this selection process of making sure you get the best person? So I would encourage you to interview for cultural fit. So what kind of culture do you want? We could do a whole session on just company culture, which I've done in the past. There's generally 4 different types of culture. You can break that down even more. I've seen even 12, but generally you will see that there are 4 different types of culture. And obviously they are listed there. Which one does your business fall in? What kind of culture do you want to have? And then you want to find individuals that are best for that culture, because not everybody fits into every type of culture. Now, my husband was in the Air Force for 20 years. Then he worked for the state of Wyoming for 10 years. So he was very much used to the hierarchy type of environment. And then he went to the private sector and he struggled. It was different for him. And he was, the rules and the policies and the procedures weren't there in the private sector. I did the exact opposite. I'd worked my entire career in the private sector. Then I went to work for a city and a county at the same time. And it was much different for me. And I struggled and it wasn't the right fit for me. So make sure that you're deciding, you know what kind of culture you want. And then are you hiring people and asking them, what are the different places that you worked at and what was their culture like? Which one's the one you enjoyed the most? Which one was the one that you enjoyed the least? The other thing I want to point out about company culture is that it's not an all or nothing with regards to those 4 different types of organizational culture. So for example, if you have a fire department, there's definitely a hierarchy type of environment there. If you go out to fight a fire, somebody has to be in charge, make the decisions. They tell you what to do and you do it. You don't question it. You've got a fire in front of you that you need to fight. However, I would also argue that they very much have a clan type of environment as well back at the firehouse. When you want to have a really tight, good relationship and kind of like an extended family and nurturing and that sort of thing, because this person that you're working with may be fighting to save your life in a fire. So I just wanted to demonstrate to you, again, it's not necessarily an all or nothing type of company culture. Interview for attitude. I'm sure you've heard this before. You can teach people skills. It's much harder to teach somebody's attitude. So pay attention. If you have a receptionist, for example, how do they treat the receptionist? Ask the receptionist, or got to the point where when I was interviewing a lot, they knew I would want feedback. If they were short with them or they were kind of snooty or rude or whatever, I would want that feedback as part of the interviewing process. Third bullet, hire slowly, fire fast. And what I mean by that is, really be thorough during your interviewing process. Make sure that the next bullet says that you do your references. Maybe you have the team meet the potential new team member, have more than one person interview them so you get a really clear picture of this individual. If they're not a good fit, I would recommend that, and you hire them and they're not a good fit, that you look at releasing them fairly quickly if it's not going to work and you just know it's not going to work. Part of the reason that I say that is your top performers, when you have a non-performer on the team and everybody knows it and you're not doing anything about it, it hurts your reputation as a leader. Because I've heard that again from the employees. And it demotivates your top performers and your other employees. I would want you to be respectful if you let somebody go. I would like, if depending on what it was, give them an opportunity to improve it if it's maybe a skill, and that again, maybe give them a little bit of 2 weeks of severance to help them out the door, give them the resources to maybe some outsourcing to help them find another position. Obviously, much with respect and dignity, but don't keep them on staff if they're not working. And when I went back to that company that I was talking about that has met for 30 years, I said, what was it about the culture? I polled them. Tell me about it. Why? Why are you still meeting this many years ago? And one of the things they said that they did was they hired slowly and they fired fast. If you just weren't right, then they would let you go. Get references. I know you're going to think, You only tell me people that you know are going to give good references. And I would say that's not true. I've done many, many references over the years. And sometimes you kind of have to read the tea leaves. If somebody's not returning your phone calls, they're not returning your emails, that's telling you something. Because if you have a rock star that you would just pick up that phone really quick and want to give them a really good reference. And again, that's telling you something. Also, I have done references where they do not give a glowing reference. So I would take the time to do 2 or 3, try not to do family members, their best friends, that sort of thing. I know sometimes, especially for people that are just entering the workforce, that's a little bit harder for them to come up with people that are outside the family in that, but maybe you can do a reference with a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout leader, or maybe a coach from a team or a teacher or something like that, if that's the situation. And one of the other things that you may want to ask when you're interviewing people is, what can they tell you about the business? Did they go in and look at your website at all? Did they do any research? Or are they just looking for a job? Or do they really want to work for you and what your mission and your company's doing in that? If they can't say, well, I really didn't have time to research the company. I had one person tell me one time, say, I was hoping you could tell me. Which I'm like, well, I can. Of course, I did not look real favorably on them in the fact that they did absolutely no research on the company. All right. And then I wanted to just touch on how to retain your high achievers. I'm going to take one more little sip here. First thing, I say I didn't put bullets on this page. First thing is, don't ignore them. Sometimes when you have those high performers are doing so well that you do ignore them because you're spending so much time with the individuals that aren't performing, or they're having issues or that sort of thing, they somewhat get resentful of, what about me? And why don't you ever have a meeting with me? Again, I've heard this from employees before, so you just want to be mindful of that you're not ignoring your rock stars. Give them the opportunity to grow. A lot of times people are leaving because they want an opportunity to grow and to develop. And if you aren't doing that, you're at risk of losing those individuals. Let them know you appreciate them. I said earlier, more than once. Don't just do it. I did it 6 months ago. Probably do it more than you probably think you need to do. And as I said with this little note that was written to my son, be specific about it. Just so say great job. Say great job on that report. I really like that you included X, Y, and Z, whatever it may be. Be careful of committing performance punishment. And if you're not familiar with performance punishment, what that is that rock star that you've got, they'll get it done. They'll get it done right, and you won't have any issues or concerns with them. And so you just keep offloading everything on this star performer. And again, they start getting a little bit resentful about that. So ask them, can they take this on? And again, this is where that psychological safety comes back into place. They need to be able to say, I just can't at this time. I've got too many things going on. I've got this, and this going on, and work through that with them. And conduct a stay interview with them. Take them out for lunch, take them out for coffee. Let them, again, know how much you appreciate them. What are they wanting to do? How are they wanting to grow? Things like that. Obviously, say thank you to them and let them know that you appreciate them. Okay, so at this beginning, we talked about these statistics and what's happening during this time, and people that are leaving organizations and that. What I want to know is, it looks like we have 12 participants on this. If the things that I've shared with you today, what is maybe something that you have heard that has been beneficial and you think would help your business, especially if you have people falling into these categories in your employees at this time? So just take a minute. Does anyone have any feedback or anything that they think will be beneficial to them going forward? Ooh, I see we got one comment, one chat. I think we'll do an employee survey. Okay. The one thing that I didn't mention, Katie, is that one place that does employee surveys is the Gallup is, and I will say there's this $15 a person. The thing with doing an employee survey is you always want to make sure that the employees feels that it's going to be confidential, because if they don't feel it's going to be confidential, you're not going to get the best data that you could get. The one thing about the Gallup one is that you can't customize it. It's kind of a set number of questions, and the questions are already set, so you couldn't address it to your organization. Okay, one thing I did to include links is to attraction. Oh, I like it, Robin. Yes, definitely. That's a good idea. Address underperformers quickly. Totally agree with that, Angela. I appreciate you sharing that. Yes, 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 yes. And you know, the thing is, people always think if I just ignore it, maybe it'll go away. And I mean, I think we all know that logically that it's not going to go away, but we really don't want to address it, so we don't end up doing it. And you know, if you have an employee assistance program, and I know some of you are probably smaller organizations and may not have an employee assistance program, but if you do, and you know that you're going to have to address someone that maybe has a hostile personality or that, go to the employee assistance program and ask them for advice on how to address this person. As an HR professional, I did do that in my career. I would go to them and say, I need some help. I had to work with somebody that had a very severe emotional issues, and there was even some safety concerns. And I went to them and said, help me here. I need some suggestions and ideas on how to address this person to keep all of us safe. Okay, but it seems like no, Katie, I think that reading your comment here that yeah, they probably should pick. I don't think you should just dismiss them for that one reason, especially depending on what your applicant pool looks like. You know, sometimes you have 3 applicants and sometimes you can get, 150. So you got to sometimes depend on what it looks like. I would not dismiss them just for that one reason. So thank you for sharing, everyone that did. I appreciate you doing that. All right. So in summary, we talked about creating a culture where employees enjoy coming to work, and it'd be wonderful if you got a reputation for having a really good culture and people are wanting to come and work for you because of the type of culture you have. I'm sure all of you have maybe considered applying for a job and you didn't because you heard it wasn't a good place to work. We want to go the other way and say, what's a good place? You want it to be a good place to work and for them to come work for you. Develop strong leadership skills. And unfortunately, my experience has been those that are good want to be great, and those that are great want to be awesome. It's this other pool of managers over here that aren't getting additional help that are the ones that are hurting the organization and hurting their employees, and in the long run hurting themselves as well, because they're not willing to get additional help with regards to their leadership skills. And I don't want that to be you. So think about maybe doing some additional leadership training. Take care of your top performers so they don't leave the organization. I may have also heard the saying before, if your most vocal person stops talking, that's an issue as well. Why did they stop talking? So that's something maybe you just want to be mindful about. And then as we talked about, you want to highlight what's unique about your business, what's unique about your location, and your vision and your mission and that. And again, we talked about how maybe you want to reframe what they're doing, giving that example of making car parts. And with that, I just want to say, the way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. So hopefully I've given you some tools and some resources and that sort of thing that you can leave with today, is you have to take action. You can't just, listen here. You're going to have to maybe do some development beyond this last hour to be able to attract those employees and be able to retain the ones that you have. So with that, thank you very much for your time and attention this morning. I appreciate it. If you want to contact me individually and have a couple of questions, I'd be happy to help you. But beyond that, I think I'll turn it over to TJ.
Okay, so in case anybody has any questions in chat, we could probably do a couple of more while we're exiting out of this. One of the questions I had is like, when you're trying to think outside of the box to attract new employees, like what are some ideas on?
Well, it's something else I have to think about that, TJ, for a minute. One thing I didn't mention to you and some things, because I know that these are, maybe you're all small business owners and the resources aren't there that compared to when I was showing you the F&G annuities that, maybe not have their resources, is the things that you can do, like, for example, one of the places I worked at, we brought in somebody to do massages. The employees paid for them. I can't remember, I think it was like $5 for 5 minutes. So you remember we talked about those women and the burnout and all that sort of thing. Imagine if they could come to work and they could get they had those special seats that you sit in and you're kind of leaning forward and then they give you a massage, and they were wonderful. Or, if you wanted to pay for 10 minutes, you could do that as well. No cost to the organization other than maybe giving up a little bit of time for them to go and have that massage, but they weren't paying for it. So it's just things like that. One of the companies I worked for, we didn't end up doing it, but we were going through a really stressful time. There was a lot going on, and we talked about talking to one of the shelters and seeing if they would bring puppies to the workplace so that maybe we could play with puppies for, an hour or two, or just have some fun. Or, maybe you're having cookouts in the summer. I'm trying to think of other things, creative
Those
things.
are just relieving stress and showing appreciation. I mean, that improves the culture.
Absolutely.
In the workplace. So
I think the return on investment is huge when you do those little things for the employees. Absolutely.
So if you've attended any of our presentations, I always ask the speaker to answer this one question. What is the one piece of information you want our clients to take away? It doesn't necessarily have to be about this presentation. It could be about anything, but what is one piece of information you would like our clients to know today?
Well, I think that I would want them to know that it begins with and ends with you. And what I mean by that is that you need to be somebody that has a growth mindset, a positive mindset. If you're going to lead a successful business organization and that sort of thing. And so maybe that's the piece that you need to work on first is, your mindset and where you're at so that you can grow and develop your employees in the business and those around you.
Absolutely. Okay, so thank you so much for taking the time out today to share such valuable information with our audience. And thank you for the audience for being here, engaging and asking questions. I know Ronnie has another event coming up. I don't know if while I start talking about some of the next events we have coming up, if you want to put up the flyer on the screen.
Oh, I don't have the flyer readily available, but maybe I can just tell them about it. And Katie, maybe if when she sends out the survey, something could include it too. So in January with DMACC has a business resource center, and in collaboration with them, I'm going to be putting on a 2-hour in-person event that discusses this in greater detail. And we'll get that information to you. I hope that you will entertain doing that. Maybe you'll meet some other people because, again, it's going to be in person, be able to collaborate with them and find out what they're doing as well. But it should be a good event, and I hope to see some of you there.
So if you are interested in that, Katie will add that in the follow-up email today. If you don't see that email, feel free to email me and I will make sure we get that information out to you. No problem. So
Okay.
I also wanted to take a moment and share information about some of our upcoming programs. The final week of BizFluent session, the final session starts on Monday. The program will cover IT, security, human resources, and point of sale systems. That program is Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And I will have a few scholarships for those interested. So if you are, please contact me as soon as possible. My email is tjdaniels@theiowacenter.org. And then on Thursday, we have AARP, Work for Yourself at 50 Plus. Also make sure to tune in next Thursday for our Small Business Essential for the week, Ready to Make It Happen in 2022. That's goal setting and planning. Check our website out for more information. Also, if you're interested in assisting people in the small business community, we are hiring now at the Iowa Center. Please look at our job listing, or as always, feel free to email me with any questions you may have. Of course, you know, I am the cheerleader of the Iowa Center, and I think this is a great place to work. So go ahead and check us out. And with that, I will close with my one piece of information that I have for you all. Do what you love and love what you do. Thank you for attending today. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.